I don't have a laptop.
It's still giving you trouble.
There we go.
It won't turn on now.
It's on. Like the keyboard
You can
is
go ahead
on.
and start.
5 o'clock.
Yep.
All right.
Do you want me to run and get mine?
Well, thank you everybody for coming. I'd like to acknowledge Charlie Shepard, our rep,
Over there.
local rep. There you are.
There it is.
Thank you for joining us. Before we get started, let's
Yep, I don't have a computer, so I'm lost.
say
Sorry.
the pledge.
Where's the flag?
I pledge allegiance
To
To
the
the
flag
flag
of
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks. Public comments.
Hang on a second.
What do you think?
Yep. I just want to. I don't know.
You set a
I'm
3-minute
good.
timer.
I will. Do you have a 3-minute timer going on this thing?
Just a second, I will.
Haven't heard from him.
Michael, you-
So,
you could go to
are
the next
you ready
slide,
with that?
please. Sure.
Okay, Marvin
Yep.
Wong, firearm policy.
Handouts.
Sure.
Okay, so everybody wants. All right, so the first slide here shows school shootings in the USA over the last 7 years. As you can see, the trend is up and to the right. Next slide, please. I've trained a lot of places, including AFD, so I've taken a lot of classes. AFD provided excellent instruction. Next slide, please. I've received permission from Ed Muck to put together this training video. I sent the link out to all the trustees and the administrators. This is 3 years old. He's got a recent book out that was published in June this year. First 30 seconds. Next slide, please. His background, he's got 11 years as a cop, actually more than 11 years, and then 4 years teaching high school. Next slide, please. And I'm going fast, but this should be reviewed. The U.S. has been failing at active shooter response for over 30 years. You can see all the people who've been shot in these incidents. Next slide, please. So what's the threat like? Got multiple weapons, lots of ammo, lasts a relatively short period of time, not planning to escape. Most will not fight an armed defender, but at Muck's data says that that's changing and they are fighting. And if you'll in, that person will in once confronted with armed resistance. We're also seeing mass shootings by transgenders increasing, with 5 since 2018. Next slide, please. So just looking at the math, on average, someone will be shot every 10 seconds. And it's actually worse than this formula shows because people are shot more rapidly in the first than they are at the last. Next slide, please. So if we look at the adjusted math for these time periods, we can expect these quantities of victims to occur. Next slide, please. An active shooter attack is combat, so it starts as one-way combat. We need to turn it into two-way combat because that'll deter the assailants. Next slide, please. This shows the difference between calling the cops and waiting for them to show up. And if we have an armed person present who acts in less than a minute, we stand a good chance of keeping the casualty count less than double digits. Next slide, please. So the easiest way to save the most lives is to stop the shooter quickly. Next slide, please. So this shows typical situations regarding school shootings with slightly higher chance of multiple shooters.
I know you have a lot, but can you wrap it up real quick?
Real quick. Let's go 2 slides forward. Let's go to the end. And back up one slide.
Back at him this now. So bottom line, what their office goes with that. Like, it's
Roger, firearm policy.
an exchange of dollars. I was she one.
That's done.
You got try to see her do something. I'll be able to see you. Okay, and okay. Well, it's I was. It's great. That's interesting. Great U.S. stories. This last bunch of. What's the person who's become ethnic? It's and then the number of kids of them. Detail. The class detail. Great. I put a great out. Full of food, you got. To dress off. 5 days in your life. Remember? See, that's and that's. Get this. Okay. You broke the seat of it. You know what? It's a card. Bad. See which you can make it. Got routed. Just by this thing. We're getting a little later situated. We just how you can use that. Right? But
Happy with action there.
I can well, yeah, I think what's in
And actually, I could do it.
this best.
Right, that is. Tasty.
But just a lot of those cheese.
Too good. But it's not everything that.
Just
It's not exact things that
like you.
we bring down. It's death.
And just like it with.
But it is. You have these things.
It's good. You might take half. It's be. Let's see that, but
Things it is stuff. Or these business. You gotta make it ridiculous. You good work.
I bet on
It's both girls. Are these nowadays? It's that.
like you fully agree.
I noticed. I should get into research.
Down with me.
Oh, when you push that little, you start stressing. Derek,
You do this.
I believe that
I speeder to that. You would have did.
thing stuff with all that kind of
Where you starting behind.
I feel like the does this in all raisins and puts in roasting it.
Just but you sure.
You open the implement.
Asia. Never. This is why I'm sweaty. She got the food. That. But it is. But it's all time. Well, no, it was just answer. Why I hear it? Why I was fine. I. That's it. What's good?
Information switch.
I just feeling how. Was watched so chilling with the grass good. With what you call the this on here out. Oh, it. Sen you might good. That he's safe from
Almost for at least food. You don't like it's too much in their right?
but
Living or you could TikTok how the year. Now, girls, what's that?
Policy is that it's updating those that can't go out. It's updated. So it's far scale what's it like? The yeah, I had Shepard, Sweden, lab seal, Emmons, the college you go with.
Depending on the sport.
It's taking out as a building legal, which probably must be right here. That there's a full sort of easy shovel. Speak the country. Thank you. I appreciate the money. So now,
Anything?
what? Well, down here, health. What is that? The old nutrition business. Wow. That's the big one. It's the big control that the fight. This the thoughts and the effects now. So the staff take kind of stuff day. So not can be out because but they would suffer. People saw a lot of damage, but it's just as we're tired, this concept there's nothing the first cat thing what I do. You just good, this is what it has to stay all day hard. It's good. You would like say what not acre to the sky boat. What get to people. Fire as it. That's what that thinking covered is a thing. And made first art with like because like you see we always got but the like fish went off the head. You didn't know yeah, I was thinking of watch. But that chili was on business with covered. That's really certified fire. Training to live peace and work 15 years practice event. And just can't kill. It is the Trevor's Conrad advantage looking the second subject virtual trade provider is going to be put into with me up meetings this is the global stuff with going to also the American. 38 is that correctly 4-7 word of change. When so we're double buses say around the LC, but it's all fits in together. Didn't play with how this is clever. It that was policy we're amending it to pick up single deepest set of food and get ready. So that we can go down to them. So you think that you really at least good food, but it's that the sheriff's corps that I think on out so it's pretty good. But
Yeah. So I guess I will give a short introduction of what AFD is and what was done in the past. And thought the direction was about something different. So our co-carried more to and take public comment on whether or not to adopt the policy. But we can switch gears. So AFD has been in 14th year now, teaching defensive training to LEO civilians. And we have a team that was of instructors available there. And we'll have Melissa Yun, myself, Conrad, Silas, and Aaron. Well, we have those whole group of instructors that work together and fill in all the needs of all of their classes. We have been working with law enforcement and with the Senate and the House for Shepard. Invited us down to gain expert witness. Jim and I both testified in front of the House and the Senate this June. So we have a network of attorneys. We use our department with the USCPA. We're capable of understanding the law, know what's going on. We can advise on those kind of things like we've done many others in schools and churches and right now. Since then, we've been on certified out for 20 years in law enforcement and been teaching law enforcement at long time too. So this isn't a new thing. The go through policies and what we passed. So we can kind of summarize it in a nutshell, but it's really, really met with me and it's at Jim and Gus Conrad. It takes us quite a while to really explain the entire program. But we have given you copies of not only what Liggins has in place, but also St. John Bosco has in place. I'm the school security manager there for that school, and I've been the concealed carry person at St. John Bosco. Has had with 13 years. I started it in 2012 and immediately adopted a concealed carry policy, and I resold the program there for 2 to 4 concealed carry people, and I think we have one of the longest standing programs in the area. I'm familiar with training teachers on how to do telling mass shooters, how to do lockdowns, what kind of protocols have in place for lockdowns, with you active shooter drills, even with live actors and ammunition just for the teachers. Alongside it, he actually did it in school in 2017. Jim and I founded this school, and Reagan adopted this program in 2017. AFD trained us. It was a 5-day program, but still is about a 5-day program, about 4 days using some of the schools, depending on what you guys adopt. You know, it's like Reagan has a 5 days, 40 hours program, right? St. John Bosco adopted a 24-hour program. So I guess people started, so it's really up to you guys of how basic training you want to get going. At the time, Grangeville in 2017 wanted a 40-hour program. That's what we did for them. It ended with scenario-based training that's in the school. We did an full-on active shooter scenario in the gyms. We've done stand-up in theirs. Liggins, CV, and Grangeville, who was here for that training, only Liggins maintained going on duty. And so some of the families, nice keeping that, and maybe Riley and Conrad can speak to that. Having one person involved in your school, at least just one, who's willing to take on that burden of making sure that it doesn't die. And number 2, don't pay for everything. You guys keep talking about the cost. Like John Bosco, we don't pay for anything. So you can make it completely free for the school if you'd like. And then you know sure those people have their heart in the right place. That they're really doing it for the kids. If they really care about the kids, and that's why they're doing this, they will gladly pay for it. They just want the city life to do it. That's my personal opinion. I think that's why that program failed in this school, is that it was more like 2 months free training for a week. And a kid doesn't want to have the range. So no, the last step is not. Anybody would probably sign up for that, but then when you're like, oh gosh, this thing's choking me, and I don't really like this anymore, and the thing comes. And then we'll watch another school change their minds, whatever the administration changes it. So things happen, but if you start with qualified people, you're much less likely to have that happen. Find out somebody in your school, maybe 1, maybe 2. Don't look for 10 or 12, and don't overcomplicate yourself. Those are my 2 biggest advices. Start with a very small number. Don't try for a team. Team mentalities don't work in security anyway. Of all the churches we've changed, the best training advice you can give with people who want to go in and stop a mass shooter is to train as if to an individual. See, that otherwise they're sitting there looking down, where's my team? And instead of just don't. You look kind of addicted stuff. Have like how much, you gotta get there in 1 year. Simple time, the radio, put on a vest, put on a hat. If people are at, so we know they do the school. Yeah, then it's stop by my office. We got a quick class while you go on and save the day. Like put that in there, just even say the things out into these school security policies. Keep it simple. I'm to radio. Monterey with your papers and have topics for them in one sentence. I'm happy to answer any questions regarding our policies, or I also brought along a really good report about the things the public is most usually scared of, but since you're not really worried about adopting the policy, this report here shows how many times a civilian accidentally shot a bystander, got in the way of police, that had their gun taken away. Those are the 3 most common arguments over having people who just don't have military or law enforcement background. They well, you can't give a civilian a gun until you cut it. They're going to shoot. How many times have you did that? Do you know how many times actually happened? 0.5 detect. Less than 1%. You know how many times cops have done that? sorry, it's still low. In the spring bathroom tub, they have, and this is a percentage, so obviously it's based on real numbers, like it is a percentage, but there is this one size on a 4%. It's still very low. You could say yourself that civilians actually handle these situations better than some, because that's the focus. God's gonna watch run their plate. So they're doing drugs, they're doing tickets, they're doing steps. I mean, if you got a trained civilian, some of the people I've worked with out there at ASGs can go all the way to and get a and then 1 through 5, they are better trained and the most popular. They are tweeted, ready to go, and they'll do the right thing for us.
That's spiritual, right?
Okay. 5.5. 0.5%. And so do I to some people? And I also have a copy of what AFD provides for developing a global security plan. And I was like, hi, what should you need to add while I can these up?
It's important, like, for me in my relationship, I had experienced development such guy has right with that success. So a lot of the things that I bring to the table is just my background, and a lot of it came to birth. For me, I wasn't there in the beginning when Charlie was there. I wasn't a lot of, I guess this district was part of this. And me, I guess school district, it got really real when Uvalde hit. And the board basically said, do not let what happened there happen here. And I don't know, for us, it's a little bit different. Our demographic is kind of unique. Our response time or law enforcement time is roughly around 45 to 60 minutes, maybe an hour. So yeah, that's time that I think you guys could you do about an hour on kind of Stephanie. So from that point on, we basically we revised our program, the policy, and then we implemented a more rigorous training program, and we asked volunteers. Just to give you like my experience from the onset of when we started, they revised the program in the 2023, 2022. There was not a lot of support for it. There was a lot of questions, a lot of concern, especially from the teachers. But I'm absolutely confident now because we do active shooter training at like, it was once a year, and then now it's every 2 years. And now the teachers are asking for the active shooter training every fire drink. They want to be trained proficiently on how do they respond to an active shooter event. A lockdown hit, what are they doing? How do we train? How do you teach us kids to be employed in this? And so it's evolved, and the support you're getting is just it's an honor. Because I have 2 teachers that they never held a gun before this, and they just felt compelled that because they have kids in their class that if basically Mama Bear kicks in, and it's like, these are my babies, so someone's gonna hang on my babies. I want to make sure that I have the ability to do it. That's how leash hell on. And so they never held a gun before, and they started training with me, and yeah, it was rocky in the very beginning, a lot of tears, a lot of emotion, but as far as our team, we move and coordinate like kids. The one thing that I'm gonna say here, but for me, my background is military, and I've always been taught you never go into a room by yourself. You've got to be with someone that's more heavily armed than you, and then already proven the ability to kill and take life. And you're basically asking for yourself to be a statistic. So I don't train the teachers to be a statistic. I train them to work together as a unit and then communicate. And the only way you're going to do that if I train, right? Working together, learning each other's mannerisms, what your preferences are. You can't do that by just going once a month and then shoot rocks. It look it was like I kind of pick it up a notch. I had a lot of stress. I induce a lot of stress to the teachers to make sure that when stuff hits the fan, are they going to be able to operate in that kind of level of stress? Because it's chaotic. It's not like a math test or the SAT. They're just way beyond we as normal citizens have ever been law enforcement has been exposed to it, the military has been exposed to it, and now these teachers are volunteering to put themselves in that position. So you need to try to at least give them the ability to operate that type of meeting. So that's where I come at, and that's my testimony as far as where I'm coming from, and it's been a blessing to be able to work with Jim Neiman, because I've worked with other farm schools, trained with Flatwell, and they're just family warriors, and it's again, like she said, they have a connection on being able to teach people that don't have military or law enforcement background, people that just lay persons, so to speak, the people that run of the mill, people that want to know how to protect this area. It's just, they know how to communicate and that be able to get them to understand that fire and not let the weapon of mass destruction. It's actually a tool that could be done in those foods to enemies your life. I'm here to ask you because I'm more inside our thoughts. So,
All evidence source law is something naturally understand your code weapon is the programming code acts as far as how we depends on the point about get this we give it a guess. I get
yeah, we
that is what's going forward.
it's concealed carry.
And
A lot of the staff, if there's like depending on the situation, we'll have teachers that say to them like kids coming up and running ugly and get this kid, let's beat them out. What is but sometimes they lock us in the safe. Alright, depending on the situation, it's either in their safe or lockbox, or it's on their person. Well, yeah, so we keep very retention, types of retention, well, 3 types. Because it's concealed carry, honestly, I think the question you ask it is like if someone bigger is causing the ball of my feet, it's not by only the big dry gate teeth. It's like a wall and we grab it, stop. Exactly. And someone where that's intention of trying to, especially if they can see it and they saw it and it was so it's not inside that come through that or number one. Thinking that how to secure it, protect it, that's what it's do. And if someone bigger than them is going to want to get to that does, yeah, they're going to get to us regardless of what kind of luck. Once they create when they get slothful, you work at it, that big, who cares what level of intensity you have, they're going to get it, right? Or they're just going to knock that fever out. So we do train on, we have a lot of steer to work on and a lot of questions like, hey, what is that type of so it's okay, let's work that out. Let's see if we can make that work. If it does work, we definitely I'll train more on. If it doesn't work, then okay, let's go back to the drawing board. See if that will work. So it's not like a narrow operating the cedar was, right? This works fine, it's this with I'm so called but
Okay, but it's,
yeah. Yeah, we said
seems after she's got done.
lots of listening.
As a,
Have you noticed he free specifically to be wired to go up to see the another area kind of. So there's people that want to career books, just they go through it with like you're your fact. I said me, I got to prove with me first, and I got to see if I'm capable. Basically, I'm going to see a test, and then but for the most part, well, the board is like, well, we don't want to have too many. We don't want to have like a little pocket is teach every teacher bar because that's because they grow a lot of the ginger stuff like that. Too. So it's kind of like this one. That was great, but right now we can kind of the board is asked like the volunteers and left it at that. It's not really put it out where like we want to have this amount of people, and it just worked out. And at least it's got a just even with my family where I don't need to have teachers from the elementary brought up. We've got experience with both and which is great. And then we have a couple of slopers. So we have a fairly good sized team for our district with Tussin and balance. And as far as people at wanting to, they should just up with this. we've only allowed one person to budget. You get us in the we're
What did you consider the 3 or 40 ounce? That's
the chip.
yes. That's accurate. Okay, I can. I thought that was maybe a dumb question when I asked him. Do you have a menu or a list of spices that could be used to consider? Okay, so then I thought of this stuff because they got the soup that five broken my voice. She did. That's the how the one in the how then just kind of spend money. Okay, but if you wanted to do private training, we can usually consolidate that and give discounted dates based on group rates. And if you're doing just maybe 1 and 2 people, then groups that they can apply and they can just jump into the class that they come up, and which they all is. So you just have to go to our website, depending on, because if they already have it enhanced, then they need handgun too. So I can't really just give you nice stuff something like this. Sure.
But
So first, let me turn that on. It's level 1, level 2. So the price for the training is associated with the level 1, 2, 3, 4 as different price. Okay. And do you recommend, what level do you recommend for school employees who could finish it? So the way I wrote my policy at St. John Bosco was that they needed 24 hours of training with only 8 being listed as basic. So that way they have to go on to do more advanced training for the remaining hours. And that's the way I was recommended writing that.
what? I think all this is with that. Honestly, this is a beautiful point.
And that's what we're doing for precise. So our school has 24, they have 40. I think either any range in there, that's really up to you guys. What I have seen as an instructor is just that after people get through about, so I'm just talking about this, about handgun 3 is usually the best level when people have identified their own awareness on their concept. That they know, oh man, I'm lacking in and close down. I need this. And you don't have to require it after that. They will know what they need. So it's risk. And if you happen to get somebody who already has a bunch of trainings, then you're not making them jump through unnecessary hoops. Because if you happen to have a guy or a gal in your staff who's already trained 3 or 4 classes, now you give them a 40-hour hurdle to put in, that's going to really burden them with having to find all those classes, take time off. So 24 hours, they'll have a good awareness of their own ability and they'll know they can do it. Yes, I made that, but yes. What happened? Did they make it through? Yeah, we did, I think about 12 teachers eventually. Oh, not ours.
So,
Yeah, the Grangeville, yes. Oh,
He was talking about, I believe, 2017.
2017.
Yeah, we throw this. What happened earlier? Didn't
Oh, okay.
yeah.
So, what was in 2017? Wait, are we all talking about the same thing, Larry?
No, actually, when we got our initial program up and running, they began the sheriff's department was retired.
This is on 2015. Who's the other board member? Thank you. This is why.
Yeah, back before us. Yeah.
Okay, we are all talking about the exact same training. Yes. So Jim was under sheriff at that time. The sheriff's office. So the sheriff's office provided the training. AFD provided the facility. So Jim would I the sheriff's office for the training. The police provided the facility, the infrastructure, the range, classroom. I donated my time. We did it for the teachers because that's obviously a huge passion of mine. And you guys work in schools, you should feel that love and protection of your little ones there. When they come by you, and when I say little ones, I mean K through 12. So even the ones that are bigger than me, they're still my little ones, and I want to protect them. And those attendants drop them off and put them in charge with you. You are in charge of them and their safety. So you're going to have to answer for that. If you're not prepared and you're not ready to protect them, then that's on you for not being that, no, I feel like teachers already do have a lot of parents already. So just like, I feel like adding, like, pressuring them into this would be probably a good way to go. But I think allowing people who want to volunteer and who already, make up gun awareness, I think that would be a better way to go. Tyler Stevens, is that the guy that works for you? Yeah. Okay, he was one of my students. Yeah. So, yeah, I'd have a love for all of those kids when they grow up, and I'm proud of him. But anyway, so in 2017, did we get people to the finish line? We did. Yeah, you could say about 12 of them. So are they still employees? Like, could we utilize them already with just some, like, updated training? I don't know who all the people, I don't have all the names in front of me, but I probably look that up, that people who changed that did that.
Things actually card as last.
That's it. We got one winner. We got one winner who did it and stuck with it.
And I prayed, I just finished here again.
I have two good values of things.
Sorry, it's last week. After you,
Been pleasure.
consider the teacher once a day now.
So I think
Those old sweet content was going through this. We talked to kids to be able to see and even able to see what one is wheel it, you involve control, spiritual lives, the figures, and male training. Those better the student, the part. So I college and stepped out. Didn't with that big the shoot rate, but I think no, stop the heat.
Well,
And so now he's getting this guy that's 324 speed about. That's blocks. This you that page was cruel. Have the thing cause good it. That was hard for you. Well, in Einster with all this in, yeah, they do some more state in that something. You don't make it so straight to the rest, which you not do with that for now. So walk west with wild, right? Don't make it straight into the chairman all the time. If you average with the clouds, you want an expert, the wild, they think the conversations are going out of the way, which is so that's name. Maybe not fix it was one but got it ways, or like that just swirl down. What else you do, the policies, your front face by the team site, what big doesn't got. So I basically, you sure could, check on topics with out the circulate out the new section and back to like the report. So that, yeah, give the big two comes back, the beats, they kind of like, brings the two world, you let it. I will always. It's not to be about it. Everything was possibly you a kid, like I said, most of the people, they don't care that the one that's so getting just, I say it's a touchstick. Me personally, I said that I'm going to use all the groups that there's 4 5 J. Then they call us if it's to be a stable officer. It's up that city.
that I'm Stewart to say. Those words
of they saw that the public policy, on the creature to go,
you video that's the two. So I
employed, and at the thing, the start to use the nation which was
stood which I like.
sound none of the stairs, we were these, was good. He'd have all these time out with kids. You found it, you spells, you get all this driven combat. So I think that gives him confidence.
Third orders for us. You know, third, you do that because it's thing that tries
so
to
great.
But you said yes. He got it.
it's public discussion that at the end.
But let's move on to
It's the concert. Something. It's fun to
Nice.
that's actually
Then it's not lady.
see.
Really? I can both get it. I have that. Okay.
It's
You think that?
Yeah, mechanism. It's a complicated. This. I do. Oh yeah, that's how considerably fun stuff. Keep that the thing that guy's turning this stuff. Because of this. That interesting. Yeah, see, it's a big point. Like they see that the expected. Well, then, did you know that was the citizen, the folder? Okay, fantastic. Okay, I appreciate the opportunity to address the school board and interested parties, so thank you very much for the invitation and getting us on the agenda today. I'm here today, I'm not usually the face of Costa Lunas. I am the business side of it. My husband and I established it in 2011. He is currently training in Pennsylvania today. So he is, we'll get to his introductions and such. I so I'll give you a little background about myself first. So we have a combined effort with both our military. Co-founder of Costa Lunas left here in 2011. My personal background, so prior to Costa Lunas, I was in the private sector for 8 years, quality, environmental safety, and security. This was during all of the piracy upbringing. I worked in Mars Supply Limited, developed security plans for shipping, and did lots of other quality work there too. Prior to that, I was in the Coast Guard. I was was maritime law enforcement boarding officer, and I was an officer in charge of maritime safety and security team, which was one of the units that they started up after 9/11 to do waterside security around the country. Spent most of my time in North Carolina doing military loadout, supervised class. My education. So I have a PhD in psychology, and in fact, my dissertation was on workplace safety for teachers, specifically about school shootings. So little applicable here. I have my MBA in Human Resource Management, and I am in the final 5 or 6 weeks finishing my master's in licensed clinical mental health counseling, working on my licensed professional counseling here in Gradieville, in specific. Sorry, limited purpose use standing up in front of them. I think that's like I'm sitting in a seat listening to others right now. Fabulous. Chris Costa, so he's co-founder. Prior to Costa Lunas, he was president of Magical Dynamics. That is where he got most of his notoriety. They did training videos that went viral internationally as far as training all different firearms. So prior to that, he spent 7 years in the private sector at ANTI. They're made up of a lot of special forces groups. And they did quite a bit of work for the U.S. Department of Homeland Security's Risk Management Division, specializing in police tactical assault operations, maritime and critical infrastructure take-back, routine vulnerability assessments on critical infrastructures for the U.S. government. Prior to that, he spent 12 years in the Coast Guard, specializing in counter-drug operations, international training division, where he conducted special missions in Europe, the Middle East, South America. He was an instructor at the Maritime Law Enforcement Academy, and he was a plank owner of port security at Rio 2 and part of the tactical law enforcement team north that deployed again all over the room. Since we started our business in 2011, we've trained over 7,000 students, over 400 courses, international and domestic training. We train military, law enforcement, civilians. Very often, we get military and law enforcement that are coming on their own time, on their own dollar, because their agencies are not supporting them in that, but they're seeking their own thing. In 2018, we moved to Idaho. In 2019, we actually conducted our first training in Idaho, hosted by AFB. So we have a little bit of history there together. Okay. We are very invested in our community. We have been training specifically in Idaho County. We've conducted multiple trainings with Grangeville City Police Department. Most recently, in February and March, we did a training for vehicle CQB for counter ambush for officers and vehicle.
And we included city, county, state, and federal agencies to participate in that for no cost. Okay? We are very invested in our community. In particular, this training for high-risk vehicle stops was used to update current and existing law enforcement curriculum and procedures that give these officers a different look based on the data and if I feel like to have it. So as I said, each of these trainings have been offered at a volunteer basis or a very low cost to benefit our law enforcement officers and to help them safe. Okay? Types of training. This is just a rundown of our types of classes. And notably, in 2018, we started offering for our Handgun 1 courses around the country 2 seats for open enrollment Handgun 1 courses, as long as we had a permission letter from superintendents or from principals stating that that individual was permitted to carry closed weapon on property. Right, our mission is keeping schools and our community safe. Okay, we're here for the mission. We recognize that it goes into the mission planning, okay, including all the way through the outcome. We look at the big picture. Again, my responsibility tonight here, but just getting told with you of what we can offer. We look at bringing the right tool for the job, okay, having the right equipment and the right resources available. This is not just about firearms training. That's an extremely important piece of the training, of the situational awareness. But in all reality, in a firefight, it's over quick. There's so much more that goes into it before, during, and after. The situation can be very fluid. And our concept is to help our students recognize what's going on and making decisions based on best decisions based on the information that they have at that time during the event. It's a quick graphic here. So this is for gun violence in Idaho. This is from zeroeyes.com. Idaho gun violence statistics analysis, high school shootings 51.4%, and K through 12 25.7%. And this is current as of the 26th of September.
Maybe the summer.
Now the graphic here, this one shows us the number of shootings in schools for the whole nation from 1966 to 2025. So 2023 has been recorded as the highest so far with 351. Again, this one's coming from K-12 still shooting database. And this one includes all shootings at schools when a gun is fired, brandished with the intent to harm, or bullets hit school property for any reason, regardless of the number of victims, time, or day of the week. Included in the training process. Okay. We have various components of the training process. There are many layers and many tools that can be chosen. Cannot go through them all here today. Okay, included in the training process is always use of force, deadly force mindset action. As Dwight D. Eisenhower said, active planning develops strategic capability and broad situational awareness, such that you can respond effectively when the plan invariably fails. Okay? So we have use of force, deadly force, mindset lecture, self-defense and defense of others, mindset purpose, which is the evaluation of skill and mindset. Not all teachers are going to want to be armed. This has already been established. This is a very personal decision. This is recognized. We also include a skills evaluation.
That isn't the stuff.
Sorry, taking equities here. Part of the mindset purpose is to start getting into the terms. What would I do? What does the language sound like? What choice will I make? And that's what we run scenarios for. It's a preemptive environment, gets you thinking. As was stated already, there's been training where individuals are like, I'm out, not for me. That can cause some emotional triggers. Again, we're looking at the holistic view. What does that do to an individual during the training process? Not even yet to a real life event. Okay? So we recognize that in many cases, there is an aftermath. There's an after discussion that needs to be included in that. Okay, part of our firearms training. We take into account human behavior and abilities. We can train. Every one of us are wired differently. Fight or flight. What's it going to be when it happens? Some people don't truly know, but that is why we train to the best of our ability. As General George S. Patton said, a good plan violently executed now is better than a perfect plan executed next week. That is one way to go about it. We plan for the best. Okay? And he said, post-training processing includes reviewing, revising, retooling within the organization, and including community feedback. And what I've understood, kind of where we are right now, we have something in place. We're looking at revising it and figuring out what the best tool is to employ here. All right, training methodology. As I indicated before, I've done a lot of research on this, as have many others in the room who are invested in their community. So our research, it's data-driven. Our training is data-driven. It's extracted from the research, and it informs our training. Years of experience, lots of case law, standard operating procedures, tried and true in other locations, not to mention what has been tried here. Okay? Human behavior, logistics, focus, protector-rescuer relationship that might happen. Okay? All of this incorporates mindset development and training to increase success and the survival rate of any individual when confronted. Our training methodology is drawn from research and development and many years of experience and from many environments around the world. Our training programs is realistic as possible in both physical applications and mindset. Every class built on a defensive mindset, growing into a specific concentration particular to the individual tactical discipline. The shooter leaves our courses with disciplined minds, the ability to think critically and to quickly assess and respond to threatening situations given their abilities. We put our students under stress to teach them to manage stress and to deal with high-risk situations. Procedures, as you stated, begin with lockdown. Well, part of it is lockdown procedures. What do? How do they deconflict so that somebody does not get confused when law enforcement does show up on scene? What are those de-escalation coverage? And in many cases, if there was an actual event, as we've seen in other examples, many family members may ultimately try to breach the school themselves if there is a significant delay. Again, de-escalation. Okay? Other options to consider that you work on are manual pre-positioning tools. We have manual tools and first responder tools for gunshot wounds. These are other pre-planning things that we can put in place and that we can consult on if it's not already around. Okay? Some of that includes having breaching tools, manual tools to get into a door. If it's, they think it's secure and they can't get in, they don't know where keys are. Other tools, medical for first responders. Again, shooting is the 1% of the entire training process, but the fact is, the shooter's moving because they're being shot at. Okay, so if our teachers, with whoever's armed, whoever the individuals are, if they can shoot downrange, if that's their personal choice, if they make it to that level, the goal is to keep the active killer moving from range to like get them away from your door, away from your security buffers. So these are all different conversations that can happen. Okay, medical equipment again. Sorry about skipping around. That can include making sure that there's tourniquets and that there's gunshot wounds, materials for the size of the students and the individuals that are in the building. Okay. Escalation of dispute, and this again, this is K-12 school shooting database, 2025. With the escalation of a dispute in a setting that's like, a lot of shooters come in. They're upset with something or someone in the organization. Hey, firearms training mindset. Thank you. All right, what we've learned through the years through manifestos and other information is that a lot of these individuals have mental health issues, and a lot of drugs are often involved. Okay. In the case of the Nashville school shooting, first responders were slowed down by the shooter and almost stopped law enforcement from making an entry. It's pro for having somebody in the building harmed. First responders from outside weren't always able to get in, okay? If we knew that they were going to hit here, right, blast off theory, we'd be completely prepared, but we're not. We don't know. All we can do is our best at deciding to continue. Choice of action. We have direct action or inaction. What's it going to be? It's going to come down to training in the nature and the tools available, what the resources are. Okay. The shooter makes a clear percentage that they go to schools that they know do not have anybody harmed there. That is a consideration. So, sorry, my stinks, I think all off up there. All right, post-engagement. This can include if a shooting event were to actually happen, the established communication procedures are utilized, notifications are made to administration, and once threats neutralized, EMS, medical services, are immediately notified. In many cases, medical services will not enter the school until everything is cleared. So that goes back to the importance of having options, having the tools available to address any medical issues that occurred inside, specifically gunshot wounds, tourniquets, and other materials. All right, this slide. Number of victims shot at schools. So 2024 has been the highest, 276. Marshalling is an extremely important procedure when it comes to this entire planning process. Marshalling includes the communication procedures to ensure safety, no confusion, evacuation room by room. Marshalling kids out of the building because we do not know where somebody else may be. If there is a co-conspirator, if there are weapons, if there are other IEDs involved. For example, as far as the IEDs and the other techniques that were used, this past Sunday, the Grand Blanc, Michigan church, that the shooter drove into the church, first turned down, there's a set of IEDs in the vehicle. So multiple attacks there. In addition to that, to support marshalling, parking lot is the highest place of where school shootings happen first. Again, the fear of the mass shootings rush everybody outside in an unorganized manner. We do not know. They do not know if somebody else is out there. Okay. We recognize that there is a huge impact on the community. Post-training, review and revise procedures. Doing a hot wash. That's important. Get everyone's feedback. We get parents, teachers, everybody else in the area coming together in venues like such as this. Okay. Next steps for us, again, started out saying I am not usually the face of our business. Chris Costa, my husband, here. And so I would like to request that we be added to the school board meeting October 16th so that he can be available to present and answer any specific questions about the
fighters, I guess they put it around. It's the questions. Just one band and we're awake, so see that?
I will do my best to field them if there are any. Otherwise,
Yeah, do that. Let's done.
good. Thank you.
Because look, what if you not big thing?
Okay.
That's good. Right. Good big village is such a sight to the best nice things. Help when you children. Vice Chair Nuttall, turn this over to you. Okay, we'll see you on 705. I think that's all. We can start with, this way, you go. Yeah, you get there, I'm talking. The teacher got big job. Sure. Help. Who got this? All status, reading policy is 13 pages or this April 1. Anyway, that's my poor attempt at humoring. Huh? Yeah, I have a kid with content, actually. Okay. So anyway, the point is what is in this policy has to do with what I thought were the best aspects of Riggin Salmon River is their official name. And so at this point, I'd be happy to take any questions. I would like to come back and address your email at some point, at least Siren to YKG. I would not be a trainer necessarily, but I do believe, if I may real quick, if you look on page 9, you must have, did I get that right? Yeah, page 9, page 7, the way I've worded this would allow for some flexibility into how we do what I'll call physical security, say, or a lockbox situation. So what you suggest, or the reason you suggested, are not excluded. I just saw the things in procedure that we'll need to develop down the road. I have asked Clyde Reuter, our operations manager, to give us a list of what I call lock boxes, multi-gun lock boxes. To see them commonly in police stations, satellite 14 places. There you have 4, 5, 6 lockers that are individually keyed. So he's given us a bid on that. But live thing, we're not really here to talk the budget at this point. We're here to talk about the policy. So I just wanted to let you know, I think we've allowed for some adaptation at this time in the spot. And your points were very well raised. I appreciate that. I could have this. With that, I'll just, anybody have any questions about anything in the policy? Yep.
I just was going to point out, in your packets, what you have is an inventory of all things that we have currently.
Yeah.
And then a recommendation, Montel schools put this together as some things to make that a thief patent based on it, is second page. And then precision water gun type of
Right.
with that. I just, so that everyone knows that these are the documentation that you got with me. And then I just have a couple of policy things we need to.
Okay, to address a couple of things that's come up in the last couple of weeks, I guess I'll mention them. The district owns 7 blocks that were gifted to us back when they were talking about 6 years ago when they had a policy. It is 6?
Yes, we do.
That's what he counted, and that's what we
Where is the
have.
inventory?
And so the policy is set.
Dated. Unless, got it. 10.
Okay. As the policy reflects, if we have 10 applicants to be a grantee, and all 10 want to use I don't always want to say department owns, district-owned weapon, then it's first come, first serve. And once we run out, then they're going to be responsible for getting their own firearms. Even with those 6 weapons, it's the choice of the individual, whether they want to carry a personal one, what I call a personal weapon, or a district-owned weapon. The caveat being is the training provider also has, per the policy, the responsibility for saying this system, as they tend to refer to it, works to this person, this kind of a holster, this kind of a weapon. Small statured people with small hands, probably don't want to give them a 1911, a big full-size 45. They can't handle it physically. So those are all things that we worked out on a case-by-case basis. but I don't want anybody coming away with thinking that we have weapons for everybody that might apply. We have a limited number of first things are civics.
Could we also maybe sell a couple and get some that would better?
What we do with them is whatever works for the board is fine with me. I have no preference one way or the other. I will mention with respect to the safes on the lock boxes, the policy does currently say if you have a district-owned weapon that's been issued to you, at the end of your workday, you go and you lock it up and you go hold it out. That was something we decided, the last board decided was probably the most judicious way to handle that. If you have a personal weapon, it's your job for the security of it. You take it home, and you don't leave it on school property overnight. So that I want to make sure we understand those differentiations. Okay? Anyway. Sir.
Would we allow the teacher to get out, say, basically wants it that the teacher be there with further hand back to that, yeah. What is the alters?
I think those options are open to lessons for further discussion. I have mixed feelings about it. I'll tell you my biggest concern is everything is digital and electronic these days. Not a fan. You know, batteries die, things happen, batteries corrode inside. I like keys that are numbered and assigned and that. So that's my only issue with that kind of thing is that you still see. As far as I'm concerned, Superintendent, perhaps you can help me with this point. If the district were to allow, theoretically, if we were to say, okay, we have what's called the big lockbox in the office, or if you want, you can have one at your desk and go install it. If we take responsibility, even if we don't buy it, I think if the district takes responsibility for saying this is how we agree you can store your weapon, then we're legally responsible for that system and its use on our property, which then leads me to think somebody outside of the person it's assigned to is going to have some oversight to make sure the batteries are changed, to make sure the safe still in operating. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it adds to the administration of it. But I'm open to whatever works that makes sense, common sense. And so, Ms. Siren brought up having that. Why would I object if everybody thinks in the best interest of promoting the program as objectively so speaking of this?
The lead issue I see with have called FIGA is a thin job. It's seeing past somebody that is grabbing guns out of storage and accidentally fundamental to getting somebody else thus got it. Well, that and it's just
I don't want to go too far in the weeds. This is kind of procedure stuff. You're here to talk about policy, but I will address that. Each locker should be individually keyed, and that key assigned to that person with a master key that's either with the superintendent or the building supervisor. So that's how you take that project. I worked in the unit office with 9 agents, and 7 of them walked in, even though we had crooks all over the building that we were escorting and stuff, and they'd go lock their gun up in a locker in the break room and after that. Does me a lot of good if your gun's over there, brother. Everybody's different. Okay? It's a very individualized learning set.
Guys, any corrections? Speaks like a need? Please.
I have a few things. Remember to turn my microphone on. First of all, I highly recommend that you add something in the policy about appointing a safety director, and that safety directors, because in July, will come to different districts. So that safety director in the district would be responsible for checking those safes to make sure they're fixing the batteries, all of those things, that the guns are where they are. So, could it be somebody like Eric? It could be one of the grantees from district that is identified as the lead.
Yeah, I agree, absolutely. Well, I had a nice conversation with Superintendent Simonson. We get Superintendent this afternoon, and I politely suggested she might be careful because if I have my choice up front, I'd like to give that guy. But the fact of the matter is, I'll simply ask, do you have anything to say on this point?
It's not like that's but yeah, that's it. about after, because, if that has to go up. The village to be always tough.
Does Reagan's policy have a safety, is it in the policy?
No,
Your
it's not.
safety, your safety person? How did you become that person?
So, so
That's Eric.
And I will mention that, I've spoken to Mr. Stevens about this a few times, and I'm going to just give it to them because we have currently nothing in the budget that would allow for that. Person to be, for a safety director for us to be paid, and Mr. Stevens said, why shouldn't I get paid if people volunteering for this program so they can't get his thing? So I give them kudos for that attitude, because that's exactly what you have Limelizer again talking about the sweater student.
Okay, and then the next thing I have under 8 on page 2, it says, all property owned by Mount and operated by Mountain View School District may also include, by definition, school activities that are sponsored by Mountain View School District and held off campus in a useful location. I think that needs a little bit of work because under HSA, if it is a school-sponsored event when you go play football is working, but we can't waive their policy. So I think we just need to go under a part of that
Good with that.
a little bit.
Yeah.
We can't waive another entity's policy. I'm thinking if we have national health routes in use in a location given down, even we want to that.
Good.
Okay, and then you were sure about commas. Okay, I can talk to you about commas after the next policy. And then on page 6 under 2C sub 5I, all members of the board chair and the vice chair must be present for the interviews to proceed. My recommendations that should be attendance be added to that list as
Oh,
first
sorry.
interview panel.
Actually,
Jen,
C
that is
board, right?
2C that one.
That's right. I apologize.
That's fine. And then on that same page, item 3 refers to the interview happening in executive session with programs, cost and recordings, guidance that we can get in. Please that we can't record and or take that kind of notes in executive session. My recommendation would, if this is how you would deal with a teacher discipline or a student discipline, is that person is given so if I in my previous life we used the year 25.6.001.002, and then in open session you can say if we approve 25.26.001 as a grade 2, so that you can have that documentation. That I think the board will want that documentation if it specifically approve someone based on I understand the purpose.
As you and I discussed in our rather lengthy when I thought productive emails, my suggestion is that when we have an application that is confirmed to be able to go forward, meets basic entry, is that we assign it a number like G1, G2, and that number follows that person throughout the progress, and that's how these Kurt's then come to see. So that what we know is a grade C5 as opposed to disability.
And then on page 7, section 5, sub D, once the psychological screening is completed, the board will meet the executive session. It should be the interview panel, or the board and superintendent. I don't know. Just a question there. Something to know.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that being adjusted somehow. I understand your point. Great, thanks there. Let me, if I may, just a moment. I read the what I call the enabling legislation, the laws involved with this, and one of the things that jumped out at me after looking at it a couple of times is not uncommon to see in legislation where you will see, for example, the board of trustees or their designee. All right, that's very common. You see that it's not in the enabling legislation. It says the board of trustees. So everybody knows, the process that I laid out is simply one of administration for purposes of accountability, and so the board is actually powers to have to keep track of everybody as they move through the process and to make a decision as they go and not wait till the very end. And then, you didn't make it. So the step by step, how these do that mechanically, how we schedule meetings to do that. If we don't make decisions in executive session, so that's fine. We can have discussion and that sort of thing, but just understand that I structured it the way that it is to maximize accountability to the public for how it is administering this, because it is, in fact, by law, the board's responsibility. It's not something that we would hand off to the superintendent to be tenants. And I think that's
Absolutely. You are the ones who vote. I do not have a vote.
Exactly.
And so I agree completely. I would just, I come advocate for the superintendent to be in that hearing because of the superintendent's board being one where this discipline should affect future each of the abilities you have with that grantee position.
Yeah,
That is my, I think, and let's do, I think that was my last opinion. Yes.
I will ask you, does anybody have any questions about process? Um,
It's a,
about
Just, I wanted to clarify to the first one here. So in the first section where it talks about the range master, it almost sounds one and the same with the certified firearms instructor.
Yes,
Is that correct?
It is.
Okay, but they are differentiated. Okay. And do we also review who we use as certified fire instructor annually? Like it says, policies reviewed annually.
I certainly think we could. Sure. As I view it, and I haven't been involved in this part of the process, as I view it, it's going to be a contractual relationship.
Okay.
And that will come up for review by virtue of expiring. So,
Okay.
you bet.
And then on page 5, I just wanted to understand what this is referring to. On page 5, number 11, where it says, the superintendent management staff. Who is the management staff?
Anybody that's a supervisor over anybody else. I know some people don't like the word staff.
So like an administrator, building.
A supervisor. Anybody that has supervisory responsibility.
So admin?
Admin's another way to say it.
That's what I'm guessing. But then it also says the grantee's immediate supervisor.
Right.
That also.
Which may be different than a building principal.
Okay.
So for instance, maybe if it were a bus player, then if it would be the bus supervisor, or if it were a custodian or immediate supervisor, would be head of maintenance.
Okay. So good.
And of course, the superintendent is included in that as well. It's still
And then on page 7, I mean, it's referred to in here a bunch, but on page 7, under 5 for grantee application, you asked about questions of the process. I had a question about the psychological screening. Who does that? Who do we employ for that?
We already have somebody. We've used them, I think, half a dozen times or close to it in the previous round when we were getting this going. I don't have their name in front of it. He did find somebody. Just so you know, just so everybody knows, this is a recommendation from the attorney's council, or excuse me, the district's council the first time around, that it be a psychological evaluation pursuant to the requirements to code, peace officer standard and freeing. And so that's what we use, the person that we found us up there.
So they're licensed for that kind of
Yes.
psychological.
Specifically, which I think is important.
Is that? And provide a very good spot.
Okay, I see. That was the question. And then on the bottom of that page, routine qualification training will be conducted. At least was stricken, but it says semi-annually. And that cost, I know, is responsibility of the district. So that's something we're going to have to address. Do we have any estimates before on what this?
The thing that we don't have a handle on is we don't know how many people are going to participate.
Yeah.
When we put it out the last time, we had first 10, and then somebody was found to not be eligible because they hadn't been an employee long enough, I believe. And so we ended up with 9. And then when it came down to, as I say, butts in the seat, we have 6. So that's the hard part. I tried to talk to Ms. Simonson down at Reagan about their budget, and she says, it kind of depends. A lot of the training that they do is it's not set to a rigid schedule. It's set to adapt and to address problems as they come up, information that comes in. And so you may have training that's more expensive one year than you do in another year. It's just,
Okay.
it's hard to figure out.
And then on page 9, under number 8, where it says when responding to an incident, grantee will always wear their district issued identifier. What is that?
Good.
What is the identifier?
We
were talking about all the time.
we ran this
What is
around.
the identifier?
Ms. George brought this up. I'm going to send this around. This is what I refer to as the SASH. So everybody has a picture. So you have in your mind what I'm talking about. Okay, I've actually also spoke to Mr. Vanas, and I think that you talked to your superintendent about it, and they like the idea. Picture this, okay? Um, you have this, which frankly, without saying too much, I have a local group who was just part of this project, who's offered to make these to the houses, okay? Um, and support, and I think it's terrific. What you have is the ability to roll these up tightly and put them in a small pouch that could be on your belt, so you have it any time that you're on school property. If you're wearing a fanny pack or one of those new shoulder bag things, I understand some people like to wear those that are suitable. You can keep it in there, so it's not a vest that you got to put on and walking out. I am opposed, for example, to a hat because you can't see a hat and what it says from all sides. If you had a sash which had a design, I think is better than wool. You can get into all that later. This is something you could take as you're moving and just throw it over your shoulder and you're good to go. I mean, it really is that simple of a process. So that's what I'm talking about. Now, I will say, because it's been brought up, there's some people say, yeah, but you have some guy, that person in your classroom is pointing a gun. I say, shoot us, and we'll worry about that later. Okay, but it does say when responding, which indicates as you're moving from a point A to a point B position. That's part of your getting ready.
Okay. So it would
That
be
makes
stored
sense?
with your firearm, essentially, this identifier.
Yeah.
Stored with your firearm.
Yep.
Okay.
That's good.
My only question, we used to have something in here that said that, we need to make sure we have the money.
Scary.
Is it basically, I'm just,
Oh, it's in there. I wouldn't do that to you now. Then it makes sense. Good.
I guess that either. As well as the financial responsibility of the district.
Well, I agree with Mr. Weller's, I believe, was comment. We cannot afford not to do this.
right, and
Figure it out, right?
I think if we had,
Based on those.
No, it's in there.
and I think if we had it as its own
Other,
fund, like driver's ed or anything like that, then I'm sure people would be willing to donate to that fund to keep this going. If we can do that, just because I think it does need to be its own. And I think there would be a lot of private people that would contribute to stadium. But in the past, I believe they were planning to use state and free schools funds. The board to make an allocation has to differentiate stream among funds to a separate fund and then allocate to it every year or make it a one-time allocation with that except blank. So you could do.
Reagan's doesn't do a line item. They need to do a budget meeting to say we're going to commit, but they don't do it as on a line item with standing. And they have a more comprehensive than just carrying firearms program than needed. But
Do we get state schools every year?
Yep.
The guarantee. Connie is here and ready with that.
I've been bugging her with questions, so take it away.
So the state allocates $12 of $3 for a 5-year interval to meet her ethics doing. The 6 years will get $4,000 by the state parent dominating. They do best and
Release.
the formula amount every year.
Now, some of those are already allocated for some,
Right.
like paying for the drug test for it, said for isolated.
That's good.
And Ms. Green, you provided me with the balance in that fund right now. I would fund it is how much?
That $66,000 budget.
Now, I'm going to make a wild guess and say, based on what you just told us, that we've got some carryover accumulated to have that for neighborhood. But also, I don't think it's inappropriate, given that what we're talking about here is being proactive. I'm not doing something that affirmatively improves the defense of our kids and our ability to keep them as safe as we possibly can. And there's no panacea with this stuff. Everybody, I think, understands it. They do the best you can with what you got. But as far as I'm concerned, you should probably expect to hear from me that I'm going to recommend we take a portion or startup money, seed money, whatever you want to call it, from our contingency fund, because this is a contingency, and move it over for the purposes of, if we need to get this accomplished.
Could we designate, like, for the first year, $10,000, and then for years previous, $5,000, since we're getting about 14? Oh, well, it's going to be different now. We have 2 different districts.
Let it.
Right. Right. So the carryover that's in that, so you can go school would be separated, has is the plan for active desalination, and then each board, when they develop their agenda, could then allocate a certain amount of that money into the line items so that they've had it to be a fairly allocation, or it could be like, I do recommend you put it in a separate account if you're more likely for it not to get lost. So you have that separate standing business.
And frankly, I like the public.
The public should, you've allocated X number of dollars to this policy. How do we go about making a separate account? So that's a budget decision and spraying me setting up, just get much of the reality. Like from our statement about the schools, we're going to allocate this number of dollars to be repeating insurance during as long as bunch of language available.
Good. And given the accumulation that we have so far, it sounds like these already have enough money already to get stored up. I'm anticipating 4 to 6 people. That's what we got the last time. It hasn't been that long. And they did the year. Yeah, it could be. So if that's kind of the number I'm believing in my head.
That's got to be element you said about it.
We checked with them before. We can check with them again. I think, my opinion, although my wife was an insurance agent, I should probably be careful what I say. But I would think that since we've made improvements, which I would think they would appreciate that they signed off before. So I'm okay. Thanks for Amy's love later. That's to bringing that up. Later to that.
Did they give any indication on whether it is still late? For insurance?
I don't remember any feedback at all. It's full day. We're just right.
It has it to this building to housing opinions where we've had a policy. I was suspended last year. It was just inactive and it hasn't wet. I can't speak for the future of insurance rates saying TV has to know for the year.
That's what the dumbest thing out stop is being absolutely talking for that is what for the atmosphere that something so make sure the house keep going. Provide the pit for the care first or it was in us generous. What with that's what I think.
The ship be not as robust as that aviation clarity. Many of our staff have been the first day, many of our staff training staff is literally, and then our Val safety fund is for massive isolation. So no, not as robust as I would love it to be. Yes, to be something steady.
As your teacher, making my case that we need to develop a proactive safety program of this district. I think a lot of things have been done in this district already, that I'll call them more pedestrian things, of improved locks, period district. Jim's made the big improvement they cost, the door, and then all that, and passing the door, but we can sleep with stars, you just need help with it, but I think it could put me. Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we adopt the amendments to policy 8705 with the revisions recommended by the superintendent.
Second? What second? Just during discussion? What's favored?
Aye.
Now, it makes public discussion. Do you guys have any input? You guys have that, buddy. We did it. Get to it. Some familiarity. Lots of all. And you should carry. Right? I'm big. I appreciate proactive about this now. You. The feet wait to this. Question. Now that we've kind of crossed that line, it's a challenge to allow firefighters. It's good. And I'm guessing this training is going to be satisfying the experience and guys. So
You should have the faith. That reason.
Actually, that's a requirement of the policy that we call them grantees, that's the legal term, that the grantees must, in order to be finally approved in this process, must be in possession of a valid enhanced concealed carry and must maintain it.
Okay. So I did that for the school officials that will be carrying it. But if that line being crossed, and I go law of 18 and vote for the men and to the very see how do you differentiate? What's the mechanism that allows the differentiation between squirrel 40 stem,
Sure.
and anybody else legally able to carry?
Ed, you and I know each other a little bit, so I know you like sensible information if it's applied. Idaho Code 183302, paragraph D, subparagraph 4G, grants the authority the Board of Trustees exclusively to grant permission for someone other than those named in the law to possess a firearm on school property. That's how that's built.
And I see. So what would be the response for some 18 and 18-year-old licensed to carry?
He's not licensed to carry once he crosses school boundaries, unless he meets qualifying criteria, like he's a peace officer or something, or a retired peace officer in good standing, that sort of thing. If his permit doesn't count once he crosses that line and he's on school property, if he doesn't have permission from this board, he's in violation of the law and he could be arrested.
So I said the legal aspects for refunding exposure to the discharge has it ever been challenged by some smart 18?
I don't know. Not that I know of.
From on constitutional day.
No.
Yes, he said it's kind of differentiating between all people who are allowed to carry in the Constitution. Right, saying these people can, but
Yeah. No idea.
Multiple times in the state of Idaho. Generally, it comes out of a student who leaves a weapon in a car on school property,
Yes.
and then they will say, "But I'm 18,"
right.
and it's not, it meets all the criteria of having a gun, but as soon as if they're a student and they're on school grounds, they see them as positive, and those that have a gun at school unless directed by the
System of activity.
That's your question.
This is my ask. They the two strike are that feel bad what you have to it. This person at school and the they are done leave the cell beside well to read that signs. But you just let you want to sell you to want they'll look through for it. You got rested without at those themselves and should say get checked.
Well, it's not been written.
But does it also state that people who aren't approved can still not have you have to gun and press that kind?
Just imagine it.
Yeah, because we've got some.
I like what St. Bosco has. I haven't seen Reagan signs. What are yours saying?
Front sign of the driveway that bodies, the staff, arm and brain does do.
This is that with a couple of
Brucey does.
So you just make a state.
I did it. Yeah, this letter to know. Does it say how many gas and the cost coming? And I afterwards do that right here, say this to friends, maybe that's the skater, things like thoughts and your thoughts.
I don't believe we have any of those in this.
But all testing as we saw it, the sides, ideas, shit that we
Yeah.
open up to watch it, that board, we actually boils and how we buy that.
But we also have to be careful not to let everybody come in, like they have to be proved
Sure.
to be hearing a gun. So we've had people come in,
Bring it up.
like
Finish it. There's actually a sign on the bullet.
Okay. I would say, speaks of that and the out. You do,
we have to plug.
which I think that the also,
So I thought
I think that was always had it. It was very hard to do. But I
if you wait,
actually as well, to the same kind of thing for that. It's something that I do. Yeah, that on my case. You can keep ours, to shed still and it's good. Other than that, but I wish that was instead on to take this struggle was very good. That one do that I said is never made a son this one. One to know the client so you know. And then like I'm going to you get to take it that thing that you would to be like
yeah, they gave. And then like the team, it, that would be the kind of thing, but that's just imagine. These lives, we just, yeah, but factory thing, yeah, but kind of explain how that would, yeah, it's really understood. Why I would leave in my first plan sheet, but and not, well, because you include,
Yeah, because of blurry.
so I,
Big.
that's a understand. It's us with why is keeper.
The Stop the Bleed initiative has really helped with turn things. In many, many places, we have the guys.
So, a lot of that, like our teams, you are good bit you with that sort of great. But creative stuff, a little bit more it's like the advanced and first CPR and stuff that keep these things straight on. And then every class has Stop the Bleed kids. Every class is the cycling we do it as the way teachers have to carry that. It's called plug out back. So go back and they carry that with them because the event of an aftermath, like the aftermath, how to deal with that is we have those sort of practice and just okay, it's available especially with team that's actually responding and now they gotta get into medical. So they eliminated this threat, now they gotta start treating casualties. Before you mess up, they can really start doing all of that. You need to teach her someone that volunteered. I want over free to just for standing. I probably so we go a little on what these kids these are this should how I should my thought and then they said is then it probably to have some family medical with them. They don't going to feel like doing the charities, but would appreciate these stuff taking it. Yep. Great. She said the same thing. There is you know, such as these costs, which is listed for the state of like the they feel through us where you know, it's like this human like this stage, it's just like it. So all of us deal with not the better thing. Uh, but like things, the idea of the testing, I just the slide to this thing that's out. It's just those parts there's 3 2 5 yeah real with this has it I think. But I'm saying feeling it's good and you put it into this all. And
So I would recommend that both of the club auditors go in attendance tonight, come to the October meeting with for proposal of what the 40-hour training would look like, costs associated with that, and what's included in that training, and then we need ongoing recommendations and solidation in the district. So the trustees could look at that and make some decisions on his own. So would you like me to take that in my and just kind of spout it out and I stuck. I apologize. Okay. So yes, and what would be nice is if, and I'll put this in writing for you too, Amy, if maybe, did you have a business card on you? Just so I can have some contact information for you. I'll send that to you and it would be awesome if you could get it to us by October 7th. That way our board clerk has time to put it in the board packets and it gets out to the board so that they can read their packets and consider prior to the meeting.
the question I didn't believe that was that which is these countries that tell
They said that's big.
I thought,
it was more I didn't get to
I know, if I get a typo or something, so if you don't get it, call me and I will.
There can have to be a city. It's October 6th.
typo caps.
Being saying,
So that's you will also I speak this bad.
it's this.
Totally understand. It's this second here. I'm in the virus. He doesn't.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The life that the kids the put as always help in doubt with life. And I'll check to the connecting stuff. But I still support out so what
Yeah.
Everything all in the seal. So next one, today. And those two after well, so we any first time? And motion to adjourn?
Should, wait, I
We need a motion.
Is that for it?
no.
I'll make a motion.
I adjourn the way adjourn the meeting at this time. Second? All in favor?
I.
Thank you.